Good morning, everyone. Well, it's been pretty stormy in central and western Nebraska the last couple of days, and I think that's going to continue to be the case today. But we're also going to see some activity in the eastern part of the state. In fact, early this morning, that's where the activity is located. Now, nothing big. We're just talking about isolated showers for the morning commute, so certainly not everyone's seeing rain, but I do need to mention the chance of isolated showers pretty much anywhere east of Kearney. This is leftover activity from all the storms that were in central and western Nebraska yesterday evening. Now we're just talking about some isolated showers. That said, I don't want to take out the chance for isolated showers and storms even as we push into the afternoon. Notice at noon, see a little bit of activity showing up around Lincoln and Beatrice. Again, for the eastern part of the state, remaining isolated and not concerned about any severe storms, but do need to mention the chance for isolated showers and storms throughout the day for the eastern part of the state. But what we're concerned about beginning around 4 o'clock this afternoon, see right there on the Wyoming-Nebraska border, it's those storms that are going to start to fire up in the panhandle that have the potential of being severe. But again, worth noting one more time, notice over in eastern Nebraska, the isolated activity, not severe storms, but possibility for some isolated showers and storms. Let's also talk about temperature and wind before we time out the storms that are going to pop up in the panhandle first and then push to the east. Notice fairly uniform across the state, but a little bit cooler over in the panhandle with temperatures topping out in the low 80s. Meanwhile, as you make your way to the east, notice how there are going to be quite a few topping out in the upper 80s or maybe even the low 90s. Not going to rule out 90, 91 degrees. Looks like the sweet spot might be Grand Island. We'll call it breezy for the western half of the state. Gusts roughly around 20 miles per hour, and a light breeze for the eastern half of the state with gusts a little bit smaller. We'll say around 15 miles per hour. So, watching these storms firing up about 4 o'clock this afternoon. And again, though most of these storms will just be regular thunderstorms, heavy rain and lightning, still got to watch out for some damaging wind and hail. And as is typically the case this time of year, I think the storms are going to peak in intensity during the late afternoon and early evening hours. So 7 o'clock, notice the storms making their way to the east, but pretty quiet in a lot of the state. By the time we get to 10 o'clock, moving into places like Valentine, Mullen, getting into the North Platte area and McCook. And then the question always is how quickly do the storms weaken? And it looks like they may still be on the strong side, though starting to lose their punch midnight, 1 a.m. But see those dark shades around. I don't want to completely rule out the potential for severe storms. Broken Bow, Kearney. But it looks like by the time they roll in around the Grand Island area, 2, 3 o'clock, that's going to be it. There could still be some weak storms, but the chance for severe storms that could produce some damaging wind or hail going away by 3 a.m. So, to summarize the severe threat, again, for western and central Nebraska, Grand Island areas east, we're not concerned about severe storms. Isolated showers and storms, but not concerned about severe storms. But for central and western Nebraska, from 4 o'clock this afternoon to possibly as late as 3 a.m. tonight, not worried about any tornadoes. And again, I do think most of the storms, just heavy rain and lightning, but we're watching for isolated severe storms. And in those isolated severe storms, we could see up to quarter-size hail, wind gusts up to 60 miles per hour. And I tell you what, normally, there is the potential in a few spots to see up to 2 inches rain. Normally, I wouldn't be concerned about that, but considering all the rain that we've seen in the central and western part of the state the last couple of days, the ground is getting more saturated. So, if 2 inches of rain occurs in a low-lying, poorly drained location, that might be enough to trigger a few flooded roads, but it certainly will not be a widespread issue. And before we wrap up, I do want to look ahead to tomorrow, looking at 7 a.m. tomorrow morning. And notice we're talking about some isolated showers, best chance in the northeastern part of the state. I actually think that for the eastern part of the state, including Lincoln and Omaha, the better chance of showers and storms is tomorrow, and it's actually looking a little bit drier in the central and western part of the state. Notice late morning, nothing big, but notice once we get to 2, 3, 4 o'clock, a little bit more showing up around Lincoln, Omaha, and on up to the Norfolk area, Columbus. Not worried about severe storms right now for tomorrow. It looks like these will just be regular thunderstorms, but a better chance for the eastern part of the state. Notice that temperatures are a little bit cooler in the central and western part of the state because actually what's triggering today's storms is a weak cold front. Notice it's not much cooler, but notice temperatures in general a few degrees cooler, but basically a repeat in the eastern part of the state. Also a little bit more wind for everyone tomorrow. We'll call it breezy no matter where you are in Nebraska. I guess 20, 25 miles per hour. Still a little bit more in the panhandle, a little bit less to the east. And I do want to mention that we do expect new showers and storms in the central and western part of the state tomorrow as well. But the timing, notice the timing is later. It doesn't look like the storms are going to start to fire up in the panhandle tomorrow until about 6, 7 o'clock in the evening. And with that timing, that lowers the potential for severe storms. So we'll keep an eye on it, but it looks like for tomorrow, yes, more showers and storms, but no severe storms.